Good afternoon, everyone. Won't you be seated? Good afternoon, Chelas of beloved Saint Germain. We gather today at the Western Shambhala, where East truly does meet West. First of all, I would like to thank you for your celebration and tribute on Sunday evening. It is wonderful beyond words to see your faces and to feel the love of your hearts. As I've been looking out over the beautiful hills and mountains that surround us, I am so grateful that God has secured this sacred place for our coming together in community. On Sunday, I visited the heart of the inner retreat, where many of you are camping. For the first time in many years, I walked inside one of our shelters, or sanctuaries, as Damien likes to call them. You know, it was over 10 years ago that the Ascended Masters asked us to prepare for whatever might come upon this planet. And as I was meditating on it, I came to realize once again that just as important is the preparation that must take place within us, within the inner sanctuary of our hearts. Apropos this, I have a special message for you from the heart of beloved El Morya. Before I begin, I want to tell you that when it comes to my health, I am not just sitting here. We are exploring all the options available. I am in charge of my life and my destiny. I, like a lioness, I'm going to fight this thing to the finish. The other day, Gilbert Clairbeau remarked that he has a 3-year-old son to take care of, and that he needs to be around for the next 25 years to do it. Well, yesterday, Seth turned 5, and God willing, I plan to be around a long time to take care of him, and I plan to be around for as long as you need me as well. Before I go into El Morya's message, I want to encourage you to read and reread my new book, Saint Germain's Prophecy for the Millennium. I'm not going to recap the prophecies that you can read for yourself in the book, but I am asking you to please bring this message to your family and your friends and to anyone who will hear you. Bring it around the world, and that message is the message that prophecy is not set in stone. If you don't remember anything else, remember this teaching of Saint Germain that is in our book. Saint Germain says, by your diligent application of the violet flame, you can not only forestall cataclysm, but also accelerate world enlightenment. We have the tools, we have the hope, and there is no question in my mind that we can have the victory of a golden age. Do you have any question that we will have our victory? Getting on to the next part of my message, as you know, at this conference we have released Keepers of the Flame lesson number 32. We actually have several lessons that I worked on some years ago, but never completed. I have asked the publishing team to get this material in print as soon as we can. Now this is a truly stupendous example of what God does. Over 10 years ago, the message of El Morya dictated to me was transferred to me. It has never been published before, and we are going to include it in Lesson 33. It is as if El Morya has been saving it for this time of need. Please go into your hearts now and meditate on El Morya as you receive his precious words. To my dear Chelas around the world, I send greetings and comfort in this hour of world suffering and tribulation. Though the arrows of the enemy come with the swift suddenness recounted in the life of the Lord's good servant Job, let none curse the day of his birth, but rather curse, that is, bring the law's judgment upon the law of human mortality and seek to transcend it. As long as the soul is caught in the web of time, relative good and evil is a condition that has become a way of life, but only a way that seemeth right, for the ends thereof are always the ways of death. Thus, in an era of suffering, brought about by mankind's returning karma and the inexorable law that brings to a man's doorstep all that he has ever hurled into the universe, I come with a lesson of objectivity for the surmounting of turmoil and of suffering. I seek to extol spiritual objectivity midst the human condition as a passageway making salvation possible to those whose trust in our God and determine to see beyond the mists of suffering's illusion. Many fear a horrendous cataclysm, a nuclear war with bombs in their backyards, the loss of wealth or health or spouse or child. Clearly, some perspective is needed in an era of such uncertainty. When earth changes are felt in the depths of the earth and of men's souls, well before their rippling upon the surface of sea and land. Must men's hearts fail them for fear of torment that may come? Must they read the handwriting on the wall of their own dark deeds, returning and thus be frozen in time? Is it not because men fear the loss of their own skins that they quake when there is no quake? Must even my Chelas be drowned in a sea of troubles when there are no troubles? Perspective is needed on life and death and eternity, and comfort is in order. For the law governing the backwash of man's own tide, his good and his bad tidings and tidal waves sent forth upon the 7 seas, is harsh enough in its own time, sweeping perhaps millions from the shores of mortal life. O mortality, how the grip of illusion does grip tight those who know better and ought to react with abounding joy that eternity is nigh. May the world know that while Aeolian harps are played by angels who come to soothe the weary and oppressed, there is also an insanity in the land that finds neither surcease nor comfort. For its point of origin in fallen angels and foul spirits offers no point of conversion, but only repression, depression, compounded by the depressed one's self-knowledge that the rebellious soul is not right with her God, and that the rebellious hierarchies and their hosts have no recourse to heaven in this age. Thus, for the light-bearers who have been sooted and cindered and fetid with the morbid cultures and philosophies of the living dead, I say, rouse yourselves. Rouse yourselves from death and dying, or a world view propounded by the bankrupt of spirit who say, all is lost, there is no hope. Why try? Why begin anew? Why build or labor? To one and all I say, in prosperity or pain, sorrow or joy, seek ye first the heart of God, and know that you are held there in the divine embrace in the bridal chamber. Here none can hurt or harm or hate or harass. The world may pass through periods of peace and war, famine and plenty, plague, poverty, or the abundant life. But let the one who knows her God, this soul who has never strayed from loving the divine spouse, seek the Leia center, the eye of the hurricane or the sun, the point of quiescent being. Let this soul truly desire to enter the fires of creation, to love and be consumed, to consume and be loved. Let the naked who have no bridal garment, no deathless solar body, woven through millennia of devotions to the holy will of God, be clothed now by weavings of the mind of God, caught in the shuttle of the warp and woof of their own spiritual effort and striving. Let those likewise clothed with riches and the goods of this world be stripped, that they might know their nakedness, which goes unrecognized by them. Let them too be leveled, until by the very experience of the vacuum where there is no God, that vacuum demanding to be filled is filled, because the soul, humiliated by her own perfidy, is made humble by the Lord's grace. There is no exchange for the grace of God, for it is light and wisdom. The cloak of humility is lined with mercy, trust, and the hope of a life everlasting that can be known and realized here and now. Therefore, let those who live in the strength of the aura of God, of the rainbow rays of the causal body of the sun, extend a light, a teaching, an example, a path. The hour is too late for many to enter into the bridal chamber, but the place reserved for souls prepared for the marriage feast, shall not be filled by another, and the door of the bridal chamber shall remain ajar until those who are the called enter in. Let thy tarrying in the earth, then, be not for creature comforts, paltry gratifications, simplistic, superficial, and gratuitous pleasures, vapid conversation with mortals' doings and undoings, of their egos' reputations, pulpits, and funeral pyres. Man, where art thou in God? If thou art in God, and I in him, and he be the all in all, is there not then something more real, more aware, more richly experienced in other octaves, fruitful climes and plains, than that should be so wretchedly encumbered by the fear of the future? You who dwell between two worlds, you who would soar and sing, yet have not mastered wing and flight, come perch then upon the rose trellis of the Buddha in his western Shambhala. Come and know the end from the beginning, for life is a circle and a cyclic round. Let all torment give way to rejoicing, as he said, Behold, I am alive forevermore. Gazing upon the heavens, unpoetically dotted with satellite, weather, spy, strategic or capable of wreaking tremendous evil, one can but find the dot of reality within and expand from this point of origin of the I am that I am, and expound upon the wonders of the inner life that never ends, whose pilgrims' feet, soft sandaled feet, after pattering through the caves and monasteries, mountain fastnesses, and hearth and home, may just as easily pitter-patter upon cloud, fair air, to the Father's heart, and some other realm where abuses of electricities and electrons do not abound. In the center of the One, I am Moria. I come to tell you of the real world in which you may live, and of the false one from which you must clean escape, else fall from the very weight of its falsity, soon to come crashing down. I am Moria of the sun, calling my chelas to the center of the One, the radiating point of all light, whence you came. Forward, up the sunbeam to God's heart. I am in the heart of spirit, in the heart of matter. This is the end of El Moria's message. Won't you please prepare now for today's blessing, and will the ministers and the oil bearers please come forward. In the name of the I am that I am, from the heart of God in the great central sun, we call to you, beloved El Moria, and those who serve with you on the Darjeeling Council. We salute the Darjeeling Council of the Great White Brotherhood. We call for the greatest transfer of light from your hearts, the hearts of the Darjeeling Council, to our hearts this day. Let that light descend now into our midst, for the blessing of our hearts, minds, and souls, so that we may be prepared to fulfill the will of God from this day forward. We ask for transformation, protection, illumination, and compassion. We call to you, beloved Mother Mary, and the healing angels, to create and sustain in us a perfect picture of the divine design, that we might continue to come up higher and higher in greater service to God here below. We invoke the presence of beloved Melchizedek, beloved Saint Patrick, beloved Servatus. Anchor your presence here with us. Accelerate us, O God, and prepare our hearts for this blessing, for we would truly know that acceleration now. We are comfortable in your love and in your compassion and in your wisdom, and we know that the will of God is good. We call for this frankincense, oil, to be charged with your light. We would be anointed for the greatest possible healing of our 4 lower bodies, according to each one's preparation and ability to receive it. In the name of Sanat Kumara, Gautama Buddha, Lord Maitreya, Jesus Christ. In the name of beloved El Morya and the entire spirit of the Great White Brotherhood, it is done. It is finished. It is sealed. You're going to face the Buddha.
The Royal Teton Ranch Land Agreement is a unique partnership between Church Universal and Triumphant and the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, the United States Forest Service, and the Department of the Interior. The project was born in 1996 when Elizabeth Clare Prophet and other church leaders decided to sell, exchange, and place conservation easements on over 7,800 acres of the ranch. The church wanted to solve complex and long-standing property issues, acquire needed funds for the organization, create a strong working relationship with their neighbors and the larger community, and set the stage for future growth. Placed high in the Rocky Mountains on the northern boundary of Yellowstone National Park, the Royal Teton Ranch is sacred ground. Elizabeth Clare Prophet, the church's spiritual leader who members affectionately call Mother, was divinely inspired to purchase the property and establish a haven of light.
This is the place of great encounters, where we encounter the real self, the mighty I Am Presence, Sanat Kumara, and friends of light who will come through this very valley from all over the world, called by the mighty heart flame of the Word itself.
The ranch became the site for many of the church's quarterly conferences, and in 1986 became the location for the church's worldwide spiritual headquarters, now serving more than 230 teaching centers and study groups in nearly 40 countries. The project has its roots in problems inherent in the land when the church purchased the ranch in 1981. One glance at a map reveals the patchwork quilt of private and public property that checkerboarded the ranch. The public was clamoring for access to federal lands blocked behind the heart of the inner retreat, an alpine meadow where the church has held many summer conferences. The county and others began pressing for a public right-of-way through one of the most sacred sites on the property. Environmental impact studies that lasted for years slowed church plans for new headquarter facilities. In addition, the church was not able to use the hot water from Leduc Hot Springs. Though the church spent many years trying to resolve these issues, not much progress was made until the current land agreement. Accomplished in two parts, Phase 1 was completed in February of 1999. It included acquisition of church lands extending from the mouth of Yankee Jim Canyon south to Cinnabar Mountain, as well as other lands many miles to the north. Phase 2, completed August 1999, centered around church lands closer to Yellowstone. Facilitated by the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, one of the leading conservation groups in the country dedicated to protecting wildlife habitat, and funded by the United States Forest Service and the Department of the Interior, the land agreement protects vital winter range for elk and other animals migrating from Yellowstone National Park. While the project sets aside land for the needs of wildlife, the church will retain ownership of all their sacred sites and other places familiar to members, including the Heart, Maitreya's Mountain, Angel's Ascent, ranch headquarters, ranch office, and the Eastgate area. Upon completion of the land for land exchange, possibly by December of 1999, the church will have resolved all public access issues and will have greatly increased the acreage around the Heart. The agreement also resolves the long-standing hot springs issues, reaffirming the church's right to access the surface waters of Leduc Hot Springs while granting permission to pipe the water across public lands.
And I also want our people to know that the church board deliberated long and hard over this decision. We did not take this decision lightly. We prayed, we sought the guidance of the masters, we sought the intercession of the mantle of the messengers, and we did not move until we felt that this was the right decision for our church and for our movement.
The land that has become public will remain available for church members to explore and enjoy. These lands will be dedicated as wildlife habitat and will remain pristine wilderness and part of the larger spiritual focus that extends to the Grand Tetons. The property that the church sold or put into conservation easements were lands the church had no plans to develop. At the same time, many elements of the land agreement have placed the church in a better position to use the lands they retain to fulfill their spiritual purposes. On August 31st, 1999, state and federal dignitaries flew in to celebrate the land agreement with members of the church and the larger community.
So that today, for me and for many other people, marks the end of a journey that began in 1981 when the church purchased what is now called the Royal Teton Ranch from Malcolm Forbes. And at that time, Elizabeth Clare Prophet, our spiritual leader, and Ed Francis, our business manager, realized that this property was a work in progress and that there was a lot that needed to be done to bring it to a state where we could actually fulfill our mission. We've also had the satisfaction of knowing that we have well managed our resources and our members' contributions, reorganized our property to better fulfill our mission, solved the delicate problems related to Leduc Hot Springs, which you've heard mentioned today.
Besides all the other benefits the church gained from the land agreement, another important, if indirect effect, is the outpouring of goodwill from people across the state and country who share common values.
But the Church Universal and Triumphant, a very strong part of the community, a very, very far-sightful and part of this wonderful part of our state, decided that they too want to be part of this mutual effort. In many conversations I've had with Murray, I want to tell you just how proud I am of him personally, and also of the Church Universal and Triumphant. They're a wonderful, wonderful bunch of people. And I think we should give them a big round of applause. Listen, Murray.
To the Church Universal and Triumphant, to Murray Steinman, and all of the members that he represents, for their diligence and their efforts in pursuing every opportunity to bring this particular project to a reality. We thank you, Murray, for those good efforts. There was a great sense of partnership, and there was great tolerance, and there was good effort put forth by people of good sense and honest purpose. And because of that, placing trust and confidence, seeking achievement and not advantage, they were able to accomplish what it is that we celebrate today, and I honor them for that.
We have together, I believe, begun a new chapter of history in the West that says something like this. It says that we can come together as Westerners to honor and respect God's creation, and that we can find a new way of living in harmony and in balance with creation. That's a remarkable departure from much of the recent past. It is a new beginning.
And seeing all these wonderful people here, I realize that they are a part of this whole community. And they're really precious people. Very, very precious people.
The close working relationships and goodwill generated through the land agreement will help the church take a major step forward in gaining the legitimacy and respect the organization needs to bring the teachings of the Ascended Masters to many people throughout the world.
And with the new leadership and my buddy Narrowly, we are grateful for the opportunity, and we ask that you would pray for us. It's a big mission, and we admit freely before you that we don't have all the tools that we need, but we really honestly believe that God will give us whatever we need.
After the completion of this project, the church will own more than 26 square miles in Paradise Valley, including 12 square miles near Yellowstone National Park, and is receiving approximately $13 million.
In addition, the funds will be used by God's grace for all of the mission and the plans of the Great White Brotherhood. The board is very determined to see that this movement will survive not only in the coming years, but in the coming centuries.
The church, which teaches a deep reverence for nature and a oneness of all life, will continue to manage its property in accordance with their spiritual principles and will use their lands to offer members a place where they can journey for soul nourishment, spiritual enlightenment, and physical rejuvenation.
So now, where do we go? Where we do go is in the heart of hearts of our beings. And this is the place that we can do it in.
Mother has told us that this land is sacred. The aura of the 7 archangels and the retreats of the Brotherhood extend way beyond the bounds of the Royal Teton Ranch. And so Mother has told us that this is a cathedral of nature. It's very sacred ground to us. We hold our conferences here. We invite you to come in October to our next conference and to all of the quarterly conferences that we have, which bring forth the release of light from the Brotherhood for the turning of worlds. So we invite you to our conferences. We want to let you know that by God's grace we're here to stay. As Mother said, we're not going anywhere, and we're here when you need us to be here.